So you had a strange moment about a month or two ago, about 2 months ago now, where you said something to the effect of, someone asked you a question at a panel about the alt-right, and in effect you said, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What did you say?
Well, this was
I don't want to butcher it.
Open Campus Initiative.
Yeah. Oh, it was it?
They were the ones that sponsored the event.
Okay, there you go. So I know this is a good group of people you were sitting with.
It was, and the topic of the event was, did political correctness help elect Trump? It was held almost on the anniversary of the 2016 election. And I suggested that I thought it did, in part because when you have certain ideas that are just not discussable on campus, and you've got a savvy, interconnected community, as the original alt-right were. A lot of people associate alt-right with the torch-carrying skinheads, but what I had in mind was the term as it originally applied to internet discussion groups. Mm-hmm. And that the danger of restricting debate on campus, of making certain ideas taboo, is that when smart people do stumble upon them, then they, number one, are completely alienated from the mainstream intellectual life because they think, well, this is a truth that they can't handle. What other truths can't they handle? And they, since the ideas never get expressed, the kind of pushback and contextualization and counter-arguments, the kind of thing that you want for any idea, never happens. And within this like-minded community, they sometimes jump to the most extreme conclusions.
So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts.
Yeah. So I mean, an example being gender differences. If it's taboo even to mention the possibility that men and women differ, then you stumble across some pretty good scientific evidence that they do. Then you might be like Milo Yiannopoulos saying, oh, we should have fewer women in medical school because they're just going to drop out and have babies. Now, I mean, that's a totally idiotic idea. Mm-hmm. But the reason that he could put forward an idiotic idea is that since the whole existence of sex difference was never discussed, no one ever said that's an idiotic idea. Yeah. And likewise, and there are a number of other facts that are kind of undiscussable that you can take to extreme conclusions if you're not challenged, whereas if you bring them out into the open, then you can put them into perspective.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
In many cases it is. Another example is that rates of crime differ between blacks and whites. Now, if that's a fact that's almost undiscussable, but just go to FBI.gov, look up, they break down rates of crime by age, by race, by state, and there it is. Now, if you have never even noticed that, then you can say, oh, gee, I wonder if African Americans are innately more violent than whites. Now, that's completely wrong, because we know that no two ethnic groups ever have the same crime rate, and they can shift over time. It used to be the Irish that had sky-high rates of violence compared to the non-Irish, and we know that vanished over time, and the black-white difference might as well. But that second fact, namely ethnic and racial differences are ubiquitous and they can change with time, will never even get mentioned if the mere fact that there is a difference is unmentionable in the first place. So that was my argument. Yeah. And I gave some other examples. Anyway, that was, then there's a doctored film clip on some alt-right sites saying, oh, see, Pinker is saying that the alt-right is correct. Whereas I was actually saying, how can we starve the alt-right?
Right.
How we're feeding them inadvertently.
Right. You were basically, I mean, just for the layman that's watching this, I mean, you were basically saying, allow for more information so that those bad ideas won't be able to flourish. I mean, that was the sort of 101 version.
That was the whole point, exactly.
Yeah.
But then it was edited to leave out that parts, and then the kind of regressive left picked up on it to also suggest that I was sympathetic to the alt-right, which is the most bizarre attribution you could imagine. And indeed, Enlightenment Now has a whole chapter on why the alt-right has gone off the rails. So unfortunately, this misconception after about a day was corrected both in the New York Times and in the Guardian in England, and they came to my defense and set things right. But it was a bizarre episode of how, as the Times put it, social media makes you stupid.
Yeah.